So, you want to learn the mixed martial arts techniques of every fighter ever? Hi, my name is Joe, and welcome to Fighting Words. This is my YouTube channel where I review martial arts books and talk about other martial arts related subjects. So today I'm going to be reviewing The Ultimate Mixed Martial Artist by Erich Krauss. This book was published in 2009. It was published under the Victory Belt title, which is a publishing company I've referred to before. They had among the best formatted martial arts books I've ever seen. Anyway, this book is on the stand-up portion of mixed martial arts fighting. So the distance striking portion, striking into takedowns, takedown defense, as well as clinch work and cage work. And the format that this particular one is using is that it's drawing from a number of contributing fighters and coaches. So you're going to see some pretty famous names on there, like Anderson Silva, Forrest Griffin, Randy Couture. You're going to see some names that are maybe well known in the martial arts community, but maybe not as well known generally publicly, like Coach Greg Jackson, Coach Tompkins, Erin Tohill, who's a legend. She fought Layla Ali at one point. And it takes all of these fighters, and in the different sections, we see how they would teach certain moves, certain techniques, how they would deal with certain incoming strikes, incoming takedowns. And I haven't gotten around to reviewing it yet. I would consider this the companion piece to another book called The Grappler's Manifesto, which covers the ground portion of mixed martial arts in a similar way, taking different fighters and their input on how to approach the ground situation. Now, the intro is written by Sean Tompkins, and it's largely on the different elements of training, like how to use shadow boxing, how to use pad work, how to use bag work, how to develop a strategy against an opponent. And actually, I want to very quick shout out the late Mr. Tompkins. He taught a number of, he coached a number of very good mixed martial arts fighters, including Sam Stout and Mark Hominick. And unfortunately, he passed away of a sudden heart attack at the age of 37. So this book was published only a couple of years before his death. And between reading the intro, and reading the different sections of it, not to diminish the tremendous loss to his friends and family, that can never be replaced, I think that we lost an underrated coach in the world of martial arts and mixed martial arts. You know, there are parts in this where he seems to have incredible insight into training, into various drills, in how to use specific strikes to serve a specific purpose. And I wish that, selfishly, that we had gotten more information out of him before his unfortunate passing. Now, as I mentioned, this book was divided into three main sections. That is, striking, takedowns and takedown defense, and clinch work and clinch defense. Actually, I should say, each section starts off with the offensive stuff and ends with the defensive stuff. At the beginning of each section, before we get into the techniques, there's a few pages that will go over what to expect from this stage of the fight. And after that, we actually get into the techniques. The striking section begins with basic strikes, goes into combinations, then goes into defense and counters. The takedown section is about striking to get into the takedown, and then it has MMA-oriented takedown defense. So you're defending the takedown with strikes and submissions. And then you get into the clinch bit, which goes over fundamental clinch positions. So you have your double collar tie, aka Muay Thai clinch. You got your body lock, your rear body lock. And then there was a section that was sort of a grab bag, because it's, hit and arm clinch, but also over-under clinch. Those are all grouped together. And in the clinch section, that finishes up with cage work. So, strikes and takedowns when you have the guy pinned against the cage, and how to escape being pinned against the cage. Now, one thing you'll notice throughout the book is that the different fighters apply a different flavor of technique for the different sections that they're working on. Now, I'm going to start by posting a list of all the contributors here. Okay. Some of them, for instance, Forrest Griffin, in his striking combinations, he will always move. He'll throw a strike or maybe two strikes, and then he'll move to get an angle for a third strike. Anawat, who's a Lumpini champion. A lot of his striking sequences end with him pushing the opponent away to get space for a big shot. Karo Parisyan section on the clinch has a lot of, obviously, judo-inspired throws and takedowns, while Randy Couture has a more Greco side of things, where I think he's got a step-around body lock for a takedown. Anderson Silva, interestingly, has a lot of submissions in response to takedown defenses. A lot of hid submissions. He shows at least an anaconda choke and an arm in guillotine. Then I remember he shows like a toe hold out of nowhere. So, as a reader, you get this broad overall view of these different options, So, am I going to be like Forrest Griffin and move around every time I strike? Well, that might depend on, how your footwork is. Am I going to go for a choke every time somebody tries to take me down? It'll probably depend on how good your chokes are. So on the one hand, I think that can be a tremendous benefit, because, you've got exposure to such a broad range of attacks and responses that you yourself can sort of figure out, like, okay, I think this thing will work for me better than this thing. Now, on the other side of that, I think the fact that there are so many different choices, there's not like a single clear strategy throughout. And I would consider that a bit of a detriment. This is not really systematic. Another thing to note about the book's organization is that the pictures are in color. We love color pictures. Often they are at multiple angles. We also get color-coded tabs, I guess you'd call them, like the corners of the pages at the uppermost section. They are color-coded by section, striking, for instance, and also subsection, punches, punch defense. So I think that would have been enhanced if they had maybe a color code guide up front. But by the same token, I think it is enough for most people to go, okay, this isn't the section I want. I'll just flip through until the tab changes color, right? Pros and cons. I think as far as the pros go, one of the best parts is that you do have all of these experts, several that I haven't named. These people have so much experience on different levels and from different martial arts backgrounds. You got your Muay Thai fighters, you got your kickboxers, you got, judoka, you got wrestlers. Everybody brings something to the table. So that's definitely a benefit. You have these experts in their field telling you, this thing has definitely worked for me. I think also the format, again, deserves a call out. I love the color photographs. I'm not just about like, ooh, it's in color. The fact that it's in color really helps make it clear what's going on, which is why it's beneficial to have these photos in color. And as I mentioned, it's very well organized as far as, sections, striking, clinch, takedowns, and also the subsections on basic punches, basic kicks, defense against kicks, defense against punches. So, the table of contents itself makes it really easy to go to whatever chapter you want to take a look at based on what particular skill or asset you're working on. But then again, as I mentioned before, on the little tabs, they're color-coded and they got the little names in there of what particular section and subsection you're looking at. And, once you've flipped through it a couple of times, you know that this section comes before that section. So you can navigate the book itself very easily. As far as the drawbacks, as I mentioned, there's no clear system. There's no single person telling you, I recommend this kind of striking in order to set up these kind of takedowns and to go for this kind of clinch work. Your answer to this takedown should always be this. Your answer to this takedown should always be that. I don't consider it a tremendous drawback, but I do think it's one of those things where, as a study guide, it works best as sort of a grab bag, as opposed to some of the other books I've seen out there. BJ Penn's book is very systematic. He has a system. Randy Couture's book, again, he has a system. This is what I'm doing because this is the stuff I need to do. I don't think it detracts from the book too much, to be fair, but because of its grab bag sort of nature, if you are sort of in the beginning stages of your training, this might read a bit disjointed and overwhelming because of that. Now, as far as recommendations go, obviously, if one is interested in mixed martial arts, the type of fighting that goes on there, this would be fantastic for that because it covers so many areas. The entirety of the standing portion. And again, when I get around to reviewing the Grappler's Manifesto, you'll see how these two books really go very well together. This is the standing portion, that's the ground portion. But even in the standing portion, you're getting submissions in addition to striking, in addition to takedowns, in addition to clinch throws, in addition to cage work, in addition to striking in the clinch, in addition to defense against strikes, in addition to transitions in the clinch. So this covers so much of the fighting format of mixed martial arts. It wouldn't be my first thought to recommend it for self-defense. If you are interested in self-defense, there are parts of this that can be used for that. I think the takedown defense portion is worth paying attention to. But more than that, I'd say clinch stuff. Because a lot of fighting, you almost immediately fall into some sort of clinch if you don't get an instant knockout. And the stuff off of the cage. Cages aren't necessarily around in your environment, but like vertical surfaces that you could be pinned against or that you need to pin someone against could be around. So I think that portion of the book could be beneficial to somebody looking for self-defense. And frankly, if you aren't really necessarily looking to train, but you're just a fan of MMA, you know, this might be interesting to get, and then maybe have some of your favorite retired fighters, you know, go ahead and sign some of them since they were in here. But anyway, that's all I have for today, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.